Hi guys, welcome to the Business Pod. I am here to talk about on how to set up a company in the UAE and what are the important things to be considered before jumping in the market. UAE, as we all know, is one of the biggest investment hub in the world, opening its doors not only to locals, expats, but also to foreign investors whether they are looking to establish a new business or expand their existing international market in the UAE. While I am gathering this information, I noticed that there are so many people, so many individuals wanting to establish their company in the UAE, aiming to compete in the investment world and explore opportunities to offer their services in the market. However, they are hesitant, in doubt, because they don't know how and where to begin. These considerations led me to outline a few important points with the intention of offering guidance and assistance as you navigate the process of incorporating your company. I have prepared 7 considerations for establishing a company in the UAE, and I hope you find them helpful. So let's get started. The first key point I would like to emphasize is business activities, which for me is the most crucial aspects when establishing a business. Why? Because if you are not sure about what you intend to offer, how can you define your business? Business activities refer to various tasks and operations undertaken by a company to achieve its objectives and, of course, to generate revenues or sales. Whether it will be production, manufacturing, sales and marketing, financial, retail and customer service, and administration. Essentially, business activities includes everything a company does to conduct its operations, service customers, and achieve its goals. Second for me that is important is market analysis. Why analyze? Can't we do the business anywhere we like? Of course you can. However, there are several factors that has to be taken into consideration to compete in the investment environment. Market analysis in setting up a company involves evaluating various aspects of the market in which the company intends to operate. It actually includes gathering information about the target market, competitors, customer needs, and preferences, as well as potential challenges and opportunities. The goal is to gather valuable insights that will inform strategic decision making. Ultimately, market analysis helps companies identify opportunities, assess risk, of course, and develop effective strategies to succeed in their chosen market. The third one I believe which is important is ownership. Who will be the shareholder of the company? There are two options in setting up a company: individually owned or controlled by more than one individual or corporate entities. Let's narrow it down. Individual shareholders or individual ownership is a single individual who owns and operates the business. The owner is personally liable for all debts and obligations of the business, which can also mean their personal assets are at risk in the event of business liabilities. The individual owner has full over decision making in its operations. It is simple to set up, which only requires a minimal legal formalities. Compared to corporate ownership, this is more than one individual or a corporate or a company itself. A company or investment funds who wants to enter a business partnership. If the entity will be set up under this type of ownership, the business will be established as a separate legal entity such as a corporation or LLC or what they call limited liability company. This type of ownership may be divided among multiple shareholders or members, and decision making authority may be shared. The shareholders or members have limited liability, with, of course, the provision of protecting its personal assets from business debts and obligations. Unlike the individual ownership, establishing a corporation involves more complex in terms of legal and regulatory requirements. In summary, while individual ownership entails sole proprietorship with personal liability and full control, corporate ownership entails establishing a legal entity with shared ownership, limited liability, and potentially more complex governance structure. The next one for me, which is very important, is new entity versus branch of a parent company. Will you open a new entity in the UAE or branch of your existing company? Well, this actually applies for those who want to expand their current business in the UAE itself. There are some foreign investors who have doubts on whether to open a new entity or to expand their international investments. I have provided a few points for you to help you decide on which one suits you best. If an existing international market decides to open a new entity in the UAE, this new entity will be established as a new legal entity distinct from its parent company. The ownership structure of the new entity can be different from that of a parent company. It may either have different shareholders or members, or can also be owned by the international company itself. The management and operational control of the new entity are independent, although there may be reporting requirements to the parent company, and the liability is typically limited to its own assets. As for the registration process, the new entity must go through the registration process, including obtaining necessary licenses and permits. But then, if they decide to widen its operations in the UAE market, the UAE branch will operate as an extension of the existing international company rather than as a separate entity. The ownership will remain with the parent company and no separate shareholders or members can be appointed. The liability of the debts generally falls under the parent company. However, there may be limitations on liability depending on the legal structure. The parent company retains control over the operations of the branch and decision making, as well as management may be centralized. As for the registration, parent company may be simpler than establishing a new entity. However, it requires attestations of the company records and other relevant documents. The choice between the two options depends on how such a desired level of independence, regulatory requirements, and the operational considerations. The next one, which I think is also important key consideration, is the minimum capital requirement. The minimum capital requirement when setting up a company in the UAE varies depending on the business activity and the location of the company. It is essential to check with the relevant authorities or to consult with a legal advisor to determine the specific minimum capital requirement of your choice, business, and location. It may change from time to time, so it is crucial to stay updated on current regulations. The sixth one, visa requirement. When setting up a company in the UAE, it is actually important to know the importance of the visa requirement, for it varies depending on several factors, which includes the type of the company, its business activity, its location, and sometimes the investor's nationality. It is essential to research the specific visa requirements for the type of a company you plan to establish and consult with immigration experts or legal advisors to ensure compliance with UAE immigration laws and regulation. On top of that, visa requirements may change over time, so it's better to stay updated, especially on current regulations. Lastly, rental space. When setting up a company in the UAE, the rental space varies depending on several factors, including type of the company, its business activity, and its location. Mainland companies typically requires physical space to operate. In some cases, a minimum office space may be specific or specified, while in others, the requirement can be flexible. While mainland typically requires a physical space, free zones in the UAE have their own regulations regarding rental space requirements for company setup. Some require companies to lease office space within the free zone, while others offer flexi-desk or virtual office. In recent years, the UAE government has introduced initiatives to promote entrepreneurship and innovation, leading to greater flexibility in rental space requirements for startups and small businesses. Others now offer a co working space, shared offices to accommodate the needs of emerging companies. Though there are so many options available, it is still important to research the specific requirements for the type of company you plan to establish and consult with experts or advisors familiar with regulations in your chosen jurisdiction. That concludes our discussion. I hope I have provided you with the guidelines needed to begin setting up and registering your company in the UAE. Best of luck, everyone. In the next discussion, we will explore the different types of activities suitable for your company registration and market analysis.